All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Application and Website Development, or AWD1100 class, I'm doing a series of video presentations based on the PowerPoint slides for our textbook for the class, that being Murox C# 7th edition. I'm in the middle of Chapter 8, and I've got to warn you, this is Part 3, that this will be fairly short as far as finishing up on collections. I don't want to deluge you in here. You'll get deluged in the classroom, but with too much information where you're starting to suffer information overload. So I will go over this, but like I said, it won't be nearly in the depth and breadth of coverage that I will do in the classroom. So that's it. We left off here on slide 45 of 73. How are arrays and collections similar? Both store multiple elements. All right. An array is a feature of the C# language. Collections are .NET classes. All right. Collection classes allow you to perform operations that you can't provide with arrays. Arrays are fixed in size. That's the big difference in my opinion. Arrays are fixed in size, whereas collections can grow and shrink. Now, some of the most used collection classes, we're going to end up using lists a bit, at least, when we get into about Chapter 12 or so, when we start talking about object-oriented programming. I'm going to put that off until then. I mean, you can read this stuff on your own. And I'll talk a little bit in here about stacks and queues, but probably this lecture part will only be 10 minutes or so, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Then I'm going to jump right in and create a console app with arrays. Then in the next presentation, I will create a GUI app with arrays. All right. When you work with collections, you must add a using statement, the using system.collections. Now, when you work with these, now here's an array list. What's the difference between an array and array list? An array list is a collection. What that means is an array is set at compile time. So you cannot change the size of an array once the program is running. With an array list, it's set at program runtime. So you can add elements to an array list or remove elements from an array list, where you cannot do that. All right, so you can make an array bigger, or an array list rather, bigger or smaller. You can add elements, okay, or remove elements. Now, for typed collections, and remember we had both typed and untyped. All right. For typed collections, you type in using system.collections.generic, whereas before it was just using systems.collections. All right. It's just different types, no pun intended, that you're working with. All right. We will look at some of these, and we'll actually work more with this stuff, I think at least, when we get to the next section of the book, when we're talking about object-oriented programming. Here's some of the properties that you can use. I'm not going to run through any of them right now. You can read them on your own. And as you would probably guess, here's some more. But what I was getting to is, as you can probably guess, if I go out again and I go out to my docs.microsoft.com and I type in here C# collections, I'm going to get a lot more stuff. All right, this is again is your go-to if you really want to get some information. Okay, all righty. More examples when they're adding, so they're increasing the size. All right, you'll notice that if they set this originally to 3, once you reach that size, it automatically doubles to 6. Once you reach 6, it automatically doubles to 12. Once you reach 12, it automatically doubles to 24, etc. All right. Much of this is going to look similar to what we've done, except, notice we retrieve the first value from the list. That looks pretty much like you'd use it with an array. But here, when you talk about creating a list that holds, you've got these brackets. And again, we will go over them in more depth and coverage in class. All right. Inserting and removing elements. Notice there there is an insert, there's a remove at. You can remove all elements, etc. There's a lot of things that you can do with this. All right, here's a sorted list and some of the stuff that you can use. Some more of the stuff that you can use. I'm really and truly not trying to not talk about this stuff. We will talk about it in class, but here the idea is to introduce you to some of this stuff and not overwhelm you with it. So here's some sorted list examples. Here's the queue. Now let's just finish this section. I said it'd be about 10 minutes, and we're at 6, so it'll be pretty close. Talking about queues and talking about stacks. Okay, it's Friday night and you decide to go to the movies. So I know you can buy your tickets online. I get all that stuff, but you don't do any of that. You go to the theater, or even if you do buy them online, if you don't print them out, you might have to go to the theater to print them out, etc. Let's assume it's the old-fashioned where they don't sell them online. So everybody has got to be in line at the movie theater. So you get to the theater, and there's 10 people in line in front of you. Well, the idea is the ticket taker or person who gives you the tickets will work on number 1. Then give them their ticket, and they can go. Then number 2, then give them their ticket, they can go. And after they do 10, it's your turn. So boom, you can go. That's a queue. A queue is called a FIFO type of thing. First in, first out. All right. So again, the best way I can give you an example is any kind of line where the first person who gets in line is the first person served. On the other hand, and these are things that you can have with a queue. You can NQ to add, DQ to remove. You can peek to look at the next element, etc. And here's a little bit of stuff with a queue. Then there's a stack. Now with a stack, imagine that you're at your high school cafeteria. And the worker for the high school comes in, the cafeteria worker, and he or she sets down. They've got 100 trays, and they push them on one of those spring things. And in that case, the last one that was put on there, I'm not going to say if they were dirty or whatever, but you grab the top tray. That's a stack. So whereas a queue was first in, first out, a stack is last in, first out. All right, if you want to add to the top of the stack, like put a new tray on, you do a push. If you want to remove the top one, you do a pop. And just like we saw before, there's a clear to remove everything, and there's a peek to check the next item. All right, so that's pretty much what I want to talk to you about here. And I'm not going to go through their examples. They're fine examples. I just decided not to do them. All right, so instead, what we're going to do, if I can get this to come back, come on, usually takes a few times. Well, eventually this is going to come back. And once it does, there it is. All right, I'm going to come in here. And where are we? I'm going to start a new project. Okay. And I've got some stuff written already, but I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to create a new project. And it's going to be a console app for .NET. I don't see that on here, so I'm going to type in console. And there's console app.NET Framework C#. I'm going to click next. It'll be on my desktop, and I'm going to call this console array. All right. And I'm going to, just for the first time, I'm going to put both my console array and my GUI array, which is the one I'll build next, in the same solution. So I'm going to call my solution array applications. Okay. And I'm going to click create. So once this comes up, now I've got my console array right here. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to add something I have not added here before. When I want to go and print something out, I've always typed in this, console.writeLine. You know, if I do that, writeLine, hello. Now, I'm not going to run the program, but if I did, it'll print hello on the screen. Actually, that's a shortcut for saying system.console.writeLine. All right, but since I put the using system statement in here, that means I don't have to use this. Well, I don't want to use the console. I just want to write writeLine. But notice it doesn't recognize that. But if I come in here and type in using static system.console like that, now notice I don't need to write the console dot. I can just write writeLine. It's a little bit of a shortcut. All right, I don't think I'm going to need any of these. I might not even need the system, but I'm going to keep that there. So I'm going to create for myself, I'm going to create an array program. All right, and as we do this, okay, we've talked about methods and the like, so I'm going to create a method for everything I do, or at least two. I'm going to have a program constant. And I'm going to say const int, and I'm going to call it max size, and I'm going to set it equal to 25. All right, and that will be my number of array elements. So it'll be element 0 through element 24. All right, so I'm also going to have some global variables. I don't want to be passing a lot of stuff around. Okay, so I'm going to have, I'm going to say int bracket, I'm going to call it numbers, and I'm going to set it equal to new int max size. So that will be my number array. And what I'm going to do in here, just so you know, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to do a bunch of operations on these 25 numbers. So this will be my number array. Next, I'm going to have a variable that I'm going to call smallest. Okay, there's a lot of ways I can do what I'm about to show you. All right, but each of these these numbers are going to be between 0 and 100. All right, so between 1 and 100. I'm going to show you random numbers as well. So I'm going to create 25 random numbers between 1 and 100. So I'm going to assume my smallest one, I'm going to set it equal to 101. Now, you might look at that and go, wait, that doesn't make sense. You said the biggest number is 100. Yeah. So whatever number I generate first is going to automatically become the smallest number because it'll be between 1 and 100, so it'll fall not within that range. In much the same way, I'm going to make another int that I'm going to call largest. And I'm going to set that equal to 0. And that's going to be my largest number. All right, I'm going to move this over just a little bit. There we go. All right. I'm also going to have two more things. I'm going to have an int, which is going to be the sum, and that's going to be the sum of all of my array elements. Morning. And then finally, I'm also going to come in here and I am going to have the average, and I'll make that a double. And that will be my average of all array elements. And that's pretty much it for the variables I'm going to have, except I'm going to add one more that I'm just going to call output string. It's going to be a string. All right, and I'm going to put in here output str for output string. And I'm just going to set it equal to the empty string. And I'm going to call this what it is. Output string. So I now have one constant. So my array, and I've got to declare this so I can use it down here. I'm saying my array is going to have 25 elements in it. If I wanted to change it, I could make that 100. Now I'd have 100 elements in there. This will be my array. This will be the smallest number in the array. This will be the largest number in the array. This will be the sum of all 25 array elements. This will be the sum of all 25 array elements divided by 25. And this is going to hold my output. Now, if there's anything that's in there that doesn't make sense, if you're watching this video, you're going to have to let me know. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do what's called seed the array. I'm sorry, not the array. Seed the random number class. So I have to come in and do something like this. Random equals new random. All right? Okay. So that's the first thing I want to do here. In fact, I think I may have to do this and make it global. So I'm going to bring that up to here. Okay, I'm going to do that. Why is this not on the same number as this? The same line, I should say. There we go. Get rid of that. There we go. All right. So I've got everything set now. So I'm going to call a bunch of routines that do not yet exist. I'm going to call a bunch of routines that do not yet exist. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call an array that's call a method that's called fill array. Doesn't exist. Then I'm going to call another one that says output original array. That doesn't exist. All right, so we'll do that. Then next, I'm going to call something that says output array in ascending order. That doesn't exist. Then I'm going to put it output array in descending order. And that doesn't exist. And then I'm going to say display smallest array elements. That doesn't exist. Display, if I can learn to spell, largest array elements. That doesn't exist. Then finally, I'm going to display the sum of all array elements. Good golly, Jeffrey. And finally, I'm going to display the average of all array elements. So I'm going to, before your very eyes, write these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 routines. Now, so I don't keep having all these errors, I'm going to grab these, and for now, I'm going to comment them out. All right, that'll get rid of most of my errors. Okay? And I'll write fill array. When I get done, then I'll uncomment this one, and I'll write that one. Okay? So I'm going to call, right now, I'm going to call these. Now, in order for these to work, since this is a console program, and since all of these methods are going to be working with main, and since main is declared as being static, my guess is each one of these is going to have to be declared as being static as well. I could be wrong here. I don't believe I am. I don't know if I need a static for that one or not, but we'll find out. So let's call fill array. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in static void fill array. You'll notice my errors are now gone. I haven't done anything in here yet, but I'm calling fill array. What's fill array going to do? It's going to fill up the array. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use a regular for loop. And I'm going to say fill the array with 100 random numbers, each number between 1 and 100. Okay? All right. This is very short, literally. This is very short. So it's going to be about 3 or 4 lines long. So for int LCV equals 0, my loop control variable, LCV less than max size. I like plus plus as opposed to like the way they showed it. So there's that. So numbers LCV equals random.next, and I want it to give me numbers between 1 and 100. Now, in just that little routine, I have now created an array, and I should say I have filled up the array with 25 random numbers between 1 and 100. So that one's done. I've now filled my array. Now I want to output my original array. So I'm going to uncomment this, which will give me an error because it hasn't been written yet. So let's write that one now. So static void output original array. Whoops. And again, all those errors are now gone. And all I want to do now is output this. Now there's different ways that I can output it. I'm going to just grab this. So I'm just going to say output the original array. All right. And I'm going to grab this for loop that I have in here and paste it in. Now, I don't want to recreate this. No, I want to loop through the array, and I'm going to add each element to my output string. Remember the output string I did up here? This thing. So it has nothing in it right now, but I'm going to say output str plus equals, which means add to whatever was there, numbers LCV plus a blank space. Like that. Okay. So got all that done. And when I'm finished, I'm going to do a write line. And it's going to say in here the original array, about the array in original order. Okay. And I'm going to add to that. So plus, in fact, we'll come in here. We'll put this on a new line. \n. And then I'm going to add to this plus my output string. Now, if I run the program right now, I'm not going to get, it's going to go and blink right off the screen. So when I get done writing this, I'm going to put in here read line. That should at least hopefully stop the program. So I'm going to run this right now, and as I add each one of these, I'm going to run it again. But ideally, I have now created my array with 25 random numbers, and I'm going to print it out. And all 25 numbers will print on the same line, and then hopefully this will stop if I did everything correctly. If I screwed up, you'll know it right away. So save all and run. Okay, what didn't it like? It says index was outside of the bounds of the array. That's interesting. I must be missing something, and I'm trying to figure out what that would be. I might have to go and take that random statement and put that in here. I don't know if that's the error or not, but I'm going to see if it is. So I'm going to put that in here, and I don't need the word static anymore. All right, because it's already in a static method. So I don't know if this is going to fix it or not. It may not. It may look exactly the same. So I'm going to do a save all and run it again. Still didn't like it. So let me go back and look at my cheat sheet because I've already written this to see if I did something wrong. Index was outside of the bounds of the array. Oh, that's not largest. That's LCV here. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, that'll fix it. Alrighty. So, file, save all. I had largest there. I don't even know what largest is. That was 0 from up here. See that? All right, that should have been LCV. So now what should happen is in here it should fill the array with 25 random numbers, and then it calls this to print them out. Let's see now if it works. So file, save all, and let's run it. All right, still didn't like something, and that's okay though. I'm further than I was. And it says again, because I put largest again, and that's got to be LCV. I apologize. So let's stop the run, do a file, save all. That's one of the bad things that can happen. You make a mistake and you do copy and paste. That's on me. All right. Whoa. Okay, it ran it a bunch of times. Oh, there's the first number, 2, numbers 3. There's all 25 numbers. Okay, what does that mean? I'll show you exactly what that means. This right line should have been outside of the loop. I had the right line inside of the loop, which meant it ran 25 times. All right, let's save it again, run it. There we go. So there's our array in original order. So we've got 25 numbers in here. You'll notice if you look at these numbers, 85, 57, 24, etc., that if I run the program again, I'm going to get 25 different numbers because that's the randomness. All right, so what have we done so far? We came in and we created a constant for the size of our array, or the number of elements we were going to have in the array. Then we made some global variables. This was the array itself. This will eventually be the smallest number in the array, the largest number in the array, the sum of all 25 array elements, the average of the 25 array elements, and our output string. So in main, we called fill array, and fill the array up with 25 random numbers between 1 and 100, once I made that LCV. Then we called output original array. All right, so we've outputted the original array right there. Okay, now the next one we want to run is output array in ascending order. So let's do that one. And I'm going to do some copy and paste just because I don't want this particular thing that we're working on here to be taking so long that we never get through it. So I'm going to copy in here again. I'm going to copy this whole thing. All right. So right now, if I ran it, which I won't, it's not going to give me the array, and I want this to say in ascending order. All right. All I have to do is add one thing here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say numbers dot. Okay, what doesn't it like here? Oh, it's array.sort. Array.sort. And I want to sort the array called numbers. That's all I'm doing. That's all I've done is I've added this line. Call the array class sort method to sort the array in ascending order. Okay, and that's it right there. So this, I want to change the comment to say output the array in ascending order. All right. Now, this is going to start running into one another, so I am going to put a \n here. All right, and let's run this. Now I don't need this read line anymore because I already have another read line. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so what do we have? Oh, okay, it is actually in ascending order, but I didn't put a line break. So let me put a line break there. All right, I'm gonna come back. I know what the problem is exactly. I want to reset my output str to the empty string, so it doesn't keep appending things onto it. So I'm going to say output str equals the empty string, just like that. All right, now let me run it again. And look what we have. There's our original array, and now we have put it into ascending order. Okay? So let's stop the run, and let's do our next one, which is going to be put in our array in descending order. So I'm going to come in here and do a static void, and there it is. Oops. Now, the good news is all I need to do is to bring this in and then add a line or two. Again, I don't need this read line anymore. I only need one of those. So I'm going to put this in here. Now, instead of saying ascending order, I want this to say descending order here and here. Now, what do I have to do? I want to call the array class sort method to put them in ascending order. That's true. After I do that, I want to call the array class reverse method to basically reverse the array from ascending order to descending order. So now I'm going to call array.reverse. All right, and I've got descending here and I've got descending here. All right, again, let's see if this works. And it's giving me an error, so I goofed up something. Oh, somehow I got an extra curly brace. All right, try it again. All right, so here's my original array. Here it is in ascending order. Here it is in descending order. Now, technically, since I already had it in ascending order here, I didn't need to call sort again. There's a reason I'm doing it this way. And when I redo this program, basically, and I redo it as a GUI, then maybe you'll, hopefully at least you'll understand why. Okay, so I've now got those done. You may have noticed too that my number of warnings is going down too as I'm adding these new routines. All right, so the next one is I want to display the smallest array element. And I'm going to do this twice. Okay? In fact, maybe I'll write it. Maybe I'll just write it twice, and you'll see it what I mean in just a second. So static void display the smallest element. All right. So what do I want to do? Well, there's different ways of writing this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assume my first element is the smallest one. Then I'm going to go through the array and I'm going to compare every one with that one. In fact, I won't even do that. Didn't I already say smallest was 101 right here, up here? I did. All right. So let's loop through our array. We've done this several times. Let me grab this right there. So loop through the array and find the smallest element. Don't worry about that error. It's going to be gone in 10 seconds. All right, so as I'm looping through the array, if the current array value, so if numbers, LCV, if it's less than smallest, what do I know? Well, hopefully it makes sense to you that what I know is we have found a new smallest element. Okay, so smallest equals numbers LCV. That's it. Now I want to do my right line. Don't need this anymore. So once I get out of my loop, I can do the smallest array element. And now I'm not going to write output string. No, I'm going to write here. Let's make this a tab. All right, and what we will write here is smallest. I can say .toString if I want to. That's fine. That's a little cleaner way of doing it. And I don't need this. And this should give me my smallest array element. Let's see if it does. All right, the smallest array element is 1. So you can see that. Okay. Now, you probably already figured this out, but I'm going to grab this whole thing, every bit of it, even the name and everything. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to come down here, paste it in. It'll give me an error. But now I want to display the largest array element. Again, I don't need this read line anymore. All right. But now I want to come through and find the largest element. So if it's not less than smallest, but if it's greater than largest, I now have found a new largest element. So largest equals this. And this will say largest. And so will this. All right, in my read line. And let's see, did I get rid of that last read line? I did. So let's see what we have now. Whoa, I forgot. Did I forget my read line? What happened here? Right line. Oh, I don't have the call to that. That's still commented out. That's why that disappeared. Okay? All right. So notice, my smallest is 2. My largest is 99. If I run it again, my smallest is again, is again 2, but my largest is now 95. And I can have repeating numbers. There's 87, 87, 2, 2. That's totally legit. All right. Now, I want to see something before we go on here. I want to go back to, not collections, but I want to look at the array class. I thought we had that in here, but let's see. That's collections. Well, we'll just say here, C# array methods is what I'm looking for. All right. So generics and arrays programming guide. And I'll try that one. Okay, I'm looking for a specific, to see if they have a specific method for arrays, and I don't remember if they do or not. So I'm going to come back in here and say C# array class, because I know in the class they will show me the methods. All right, so come on, come on. Here's the methods. Trying to see if there's a min method in here, some kind of a minimum method. Okay. I'm going to look this up and just see what they say. I'm going to Google how to find the smallest element in a C# array. I don't know which way they did it. So initialize, do a length, repeat this. They do it pretty much the way I did it. Okay, I thought maybe that there was some kind of a method that we could run. Okay, that's fine. I mean a built-in method as opposed to what I wrote. So we have now gone in here, and all that's left is the sum of the array elements and the average of the array elements. Okay? I'll tell you what, let's write this as one routine. And let's change the name to display sum or average of all array elements. And I'm going to call this thing twice. And I'm going to come on. There we go. The first time I call it, I'm going to pass in the number 1. The second time I call it, I'm going to pass in the number 2. And you might say, what are you even talking about? I want to be able to add these and print out the sum if I ask for the sum. I want to be able to add these, figure out and print out the average if I pass in a 2. All right? So I'm going to write this routine. It won't take too long. And then we'll be done with this. So again, this is a static void, and it's this. And I also must pass in an int, which I'll just call value. It's for val. It's the value I'm passing in. Okay? All right. Now, either way, I need to figure out the sum. I need to figure out the sum either way. So I'm going to do my old for loop here. I'll just grab it. It doesn't matter which one of these I grab. I could have grabbed one of the other ones. But I'm going to come in here. First, I'm going to create 2 variables. I already have those variables. So calculate the sum of all array elements. All right. So this is going to run through the array, and I'm going to say sum plus equal numbers LCV. Now I've got the sum. Okay? And I'm also going to do the average right away. And I'm going to say the average equals the sum, but I'm going to cast that as a double, sum divided by, not val, I want the number of array elements. So numbers dot length. All right? So now I've got them both. But when I do my actual write line here, and again, let me grab this and copy that down here. And again, I don't need my write line state or my read line in there any longer. Now I want to check. And sometimes I want to write the sum, and sometimes I want to write the average. How do I know? I'm going to do a switch on that value. And oops, the case of 1, I'm going to do this write line, which is going to say the sum of all array elements plus sum dot toString. Let me put it on a new line so I'm sure you can read it. And break. All right. If it's a 2, I want to say the average of all array elements, and that'll be AVG. And let's do that to 2 decimal places. Okay? And if it's anything else, this should never happen, but I'll put a default in there anyway. I'll just break. In fact, if it's, I'll just do a return, because I shouldn't even be in this routine anymore. All right? I don't need this anymore. And believe it or not, I think I'm done. Now it's still telling me here, sum is assigned a value that is never used. All right, let's look. Didn't I print out the value of sum? There's sum. There I'm printing it out. And it's telling me that sum is assigned a value, but its value is never used. I think I can get away to get rid of these warnings. I think if I don't give it a value, these will go away. Let's see. Nope. It's assigned a value that is never. I'm not sure what that warning is. I guess I'll have to go and look that one up at another time. So, all right, I'm going to leave it like that then. And technically, this didn't have to be a global. This didn't have to be global. This didn't have to be global, and neither did this. What do I mean? Well, for smallest in here, let's change this. I'm going to grab this int smallest equal 101, and I'm going to go down to my smallest, and I'm going to add that. And I'm going to say int smallest equal 101, like that. Now I can get rid of it from right here. I don't need it anymore. Now I'm going to say int largest equals 0. I'm going to put that in my largest routine. And I don't need largest anymore. Now I can grab sum, and I can put that in my last routine here that I just wrote. And I don't need sum anymore, so that warning will go away. And now I can grab average, all right, and also bring that into here. All right, and get rid of the average from up above. The good news is what I've done now, you should always strive to have as few global variables as necessary. It really makes sense to have it does make sense to have the array be global. All right, even this output string, I could have made it local in each routine. It wouldn't matter. But I'm still trying to figure out, let's see. When a variable with private access is assigned a value, but it's not used in any scripts in the project. Okay, I'm not sure. There's probably a very simple explanation for that, but let's take a look at what we've got. All right, so I'm going to go back to the actual program. It's not a super large program, all right, for what I'm doing here. So what? 160 lines. The next one will be longer. I'm warning you in advance. All right, so this, where it says seed the random number class, that comment should be up here because that's what I'm doing. Just looking through here to try to pretty it up a bit. This can go on a new line to make it easier to read. This can go on a new line to make it easier to read. And that looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to run this again. And notice what I have. All right, so I've got here, there's the array in original order. There it is in ascending order. There it is in descending order. The smallest is 7. The largest is 99. There's my sum. I thought I printed out the average, but maybe I didn't, but we'll find that out. So 1334 is the sum of all of these. All right, so let's go back and look at that last thing, see if we can figure that out, and then we're finished with this. So right line the average. So why didn't it show that? Did I call it here with a 2? I did. Display sum or average of all, and there's a 2. display sum or average, int val, int sum. There's my for loop. There's the average. Summed, that all looks good to me. Switch on val, which is this. Case 1, do this. Case 2, do this. But this is not being called for some goofy reason. Default just return. Okay. So I'm calling it here. I'm passing it a 2. Let me do one more file, save all. It should be showing that to my knowledge. It's got the sum. Oh, it shows the average afterwards. Okay. Let's see, why is it doing that? Well, it has something to do with the switch and the order in which that's done. But what you should see is, what do I now have if I hit enter? I now have an array in original order. I put it in ascending order. I put it in descending order. I find the smallest element that's in the array. I find the largest element that's in the array. I print out the sum of all the array elements, and I print out the average of all the array elements. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 routines, plus the routine to fill the array. So I had 8 routines in there. But none of the arrays are humongous. Or, I'm sorry, none of the methods are humongous. You should always strive to have any method that you write not be bigger, be no bigger than where it would appear on the whole page. Now you notice this one, that one works, that one does, that one does. So all of these will go in one. That one's a little harder because it's a little longer. You know, I mean, I could do this and cheat, but that's not the goal here. All right, there's my smallest, there's my largest, and there's my sum or average. I could have written that as 2 different routines as well, but just to show you how I could combine things. That's why I did it the way I did it. Now, when I come back in just a couple minutes, because we are already at 52 minutes, but when I come back, I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to rewrite it as a GUI app. I've already got that done just to show you what it will look like. All right, it will look like, I think this is the one. I had to make it a little small like this. I guess I didn't have to make it that small. But when you run it, it's going to look like this. So there's my numbers. There they are in ascending order. There they are in descending order. I think I'll make this a little bigger so it'll be easier for you to see. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm not going to build the interface in front of you. All right? This is a new thing called a list box. These are just buttons. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 buttons and a list box. I guess I could build that in front of you. Maybe I will. So I'll come back and do that in just a couple minutes.